Tip number 6. Use video blogs and newsletters to display your personality and expertise. Why don't most people respond simply to an internet post about a meetup group? How do you distinguish yourself as being a credible authority to your online community? How can others find out that you truly are a caring, concerned, and compassionate person? In what ways can you assure a potential member that they will have the best experience by attending your meetup because you are facilitating it? Well, you might want to consider using a video blog, like this one. Consider this for a moment too. When people make a decision, they first must be emotionally convinced before they justify their decision later with reason. Consider this as well. When you're a public speaker and trying to entice people to join a movement or pay for a product or a service, there are 3 factors that go into this. Now, 20% of your effectiveness is in your content, your knowledge. Another 20% is your opinion, your unique take on the situation. Now, 60% of your effectiveness lies, and this is important, it lies in your emotion. Count it, 60% lies in your emotion. You can't capture that in writing, and you can't capture that in a well-designed web page. The only way you can capture that is through the medium of video. And that way, your meetup group, your online community, will see that you are a real person who is compassionate and really cares. That will communicate mountains of information. So one of the things that we try to explain to people when they're trying to communicate a message and build rapport is to tell a vulnerable story about yourself. I think one of the most vulnerable stories I have is about when I used to work for the mental health industry. I worked with suicide survivors, and when I first got in the room, nobody would look at me, nobody would look at each other. It was just like stone faces staring at the ground. And I got up in front of everyone and I told them I was going to be running a drama program for them. Well, there was absolutely no response from them whatsoever. I asked the mental health professional who had sponsored the workshop, I asked him, do you have any suggestions about what I can do to get through to these people? And he said, well, you're on your own, buddy. So I just kind of had to look at them and say, look, guys, you know, I know we're here to do some healing work. And believe me, I don't have all my stuff together. You know, there were times in my childhood, there were times in my life where I felt like that, you know, life wasn't worth much, that it wasn't worth, you know, going on. You know, I've got so much to give, but nobody seemed to want it. And I realized during that moment, that is what they needed to hear. So when you're trying to communicate to somebody who is hurting, when you're trying to communicate to someone who needs healing, it's not going to help to be like, oh, I'm Mr. Positive, Mr. Perky, Mr. Powerful, Mr. Positive Thought, because, you know, that's like speaking a different language. As my friend Deborah Lee Scott would say, that's like speaking Lithuanian to someone who speaks German or Japanese. So you really have to kind of be in that place where they're at, and then you can bring your spirit in, you know, to kind of bring them out. I had to confess, you know, there were moments, and I gave them specific moments where I felt like ending it. And I think that's when they connected with me. So to make a long story short, we had a wonderful, wonderful experience. These people were performing in front of 100 people. They were being funny, but they were being truthful, and there were some of the most powerful, dramatic improvs that I think I've ever seen from anyone, professional or non-professional. So that's my vulnerable story, in that I had to really kind of express that I knew where they were coming from, that I knew what was, you know, what was going through their minds, and then they were willing to listen to me. So that's an example of a vulnerable story.